The giant window in the observation deck showed the massive space station growing larger. Ambassador Caroline Maxwell stood with her hands behind her back, watching as humanity's first diplomatic ship approached Helios Station. Her gray suit was perfectly pressed, her short brown hair neatly combed. She looked calm, but her heart beat fast. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" said Alan West as he joined her. The security chief was tall with broad shoulders and always alert eyes. "It's bigger than all our space stations combined," Caroline replied, "and home to 30 alien species. Everything changes today." The human ship, *UEA's Harmony*, docked with a gentle bump. Caroline took a deep breath and nodded to her team. Alan, cultural liaison Samantha Reeves, and scientific advisor Dr. Nathan Palmer. Together, they walked toward the airlock. "Remember, we represent all of humanity now," Caroline said. "No pressure." The doors opened with a hiss. Bright lights blinded them for a moment. When their eyes adjusted, they saw a long hallway filled with creatures of different shapes, sizes, and colors. Some had multiple arms, others had no arms at all. Some floated, others crawled. The smell was strange, like a mix of seawater, metal, and something sweet. At the front stood a human-like figure with blue skin and silver eyes. "Welcome to Helios Station," it said in perfect English. "I am Lyra of the Lygian people. We have been chosen to greet you as our biology is most similar to yours." Caroline stepped forward. "Thank you, Lyra. I am Ambassador Caroline Maxwell of Earth. We are honored to join the Galactic Council." As they walked through the station, aliens stared at them. Some looked curious, others seemed disgusted. Nathan whispered data into a small recorder. Samantha smiled at everyone, trying to appear friendly. Alan watched everyone carefully, noting possible threats. "The council session begins tomorrow," Lyra explained. "Tonight you will rest in your quarters. Each species has their own section designed for their biology." They passed a group of tall gray beings with 4 arms and ridge-like crests on their heads. These aliens looked at the humans with cold eyes. "Voraks," Lyra whispered, "one of the oldest species in the council. Very proud. Very traditional." One of the Voraks stepped forward, towering over Caroline. "So these are the new primitives," it said in a deep voice. "How amusing that they think they belong here." Caroline kept her face neutral. "We come with respect and hope to learn from all species, including the esteemed Voraks." The Voraks made a sound like stones grinding together, perhaps a laugh. "Learn? What could you possibly teach us? Your species still fights itself over resources. You've barely left your own planet." "High Commander Zeth Krell," Lyra said quickly, "the humans are official guests of the council." Zeth Krell's 4 eyes narrowed. "For now." He turned and walked away with his group. Later, in their quarters, Alan checked for listening devices, while the team gathered around a table. "That went well," Nathan said with a nervous laugh. Caroline looked serious. "The Lygians seem friendly, but the Voraks could be trouble. I noticed some of the other species watching the Voraks carefully," Samantha added. "There's more going on here than we know." Alan finished his sweep. "Clear," he said. "Ambassador, what's our next move?" Caroline looked out the window at the stars. Earth was just one tiny point of light from here. "We do what we came to do. We make friends, we learn, and we make sure humanity has a place at the table." She turned to face her team. "Starting tomorrow, we show them what humans are really made of." The team nodded. None of them knew that in just a few weeks, the galaxy would find out exactly what humans were capable of when pushed too far. 2 weeks passed on Helios Station. Caroline sat at a large round table in the council chamber. Representatives from 30 alien species sat around her, their voices a mix of strange sounds. Some spoke through translators. Others used machines to communicate. "The human request for trade routes through Sector 17 is denied," said High Commander Zeth Krell of the Voraks. His 4 arms moved in sharp gestures. "Their ships are too primitive. They would be a danger to proper traffic. Caroline kept her face calm, though anger burned inside. Our ships meet all Council safety standards. The Voraks have blocked every request we've made so far. Murmurs filled the room. Some species seemed to agree with her. Perhaps we should vote, suggested Lyra of the Lysians. Her silver eyes looked at Caroline with support. Before anyone could respond, Caroline's communicator buzzed. She read the message and her face turned pale. "Is something wrong, Ambassador?" asked the Council leader, a jellyfish-like being floating in a tank of blue liquid. "Our research station on Europa has gone silent," Caroline said. "All 47 scientists. We've lost contact." Zeth Kroll made that stone-grinding laugh again. Perhaps they should have built better equipment. Later, in the human quarters, the team gathered for an emergency meeting. "It can't be a coincidence," Alan said. "The station was fine yesterday. Now, right when we're pushing for trade routes, it goes dark." Dr. Nathan Palmer worked on his computer. "I've been studying the Council records we were given access to. Look at this." He turned the screen to show a star map. "The Voraks have been watching Earth for over 300 years. They consider our whole solar system part of what they call their expansion zone." "That's not in any official documents," Samantha said, shocked. "No, but I found references in historical reports. The Voraks claim territories long before they actually take them, and they're not known for asking permission." Caroline stared at the map. "You think they did something to our Europa station?" "I can't prove it," Nathan replied. "But the timing is suspicious." A knock at the door interrupted them. Alan checked the security screen. "It's Lyra," he said before opening the door. The Lysian entered quickly. She looked nervous, her blue skin darker than usual. "Ambassador Maxwell," she said quietly, "I came to warn you. The Voraks are planning something. My people have heard rumors." "About Europa?" Caroline asked. Lyra looked confused. "No, about your colony. New Horizon on Proxima Centauri." Everyone froze. The colony was humanity's pride. The first human settlement on a planet outside the solar system. 50,000 people lived there now. "What about the colony?" Caroline's voice was tight. "The Voraks consider it illegal. They claim they marked that star system centuries ago." Lyra lowered her voice even more. "There are Voraks warships missing from their usual patrols. We don't know where they went." Caroline turned to Alan. "Contact Earth immediately. Tell them to send ships to protect New Horizon." Then she looked at Lyra. "Thank you for the warning. Why are you helping us?" Lyra's silver eyes seemed sad. "The Voraks did the same to my people long ago. We once had 5 colony worlds. Now we have only our home planet. No one helped us." After Lyra left, the team worked quickly, sending coded messages to Earth. "Will help arrive in time?" Samantha asked. Caroline looked out at the stars. "New Horizon is 2 weeks away at our fastest ship speed. All we can do now is warn them and hope." What she didn't know was that the Vorak ships were already there, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The sun rose over New Horizon colony, painting the sky pink and orange. The air was cool but breathable. Governor Olivia Daniels stood on the balcony of the administration building, looking out at the city she helped build. 5 years ago, this had been just empty land on an alien planet. Now, over 50,000 people called it home. Buildings made of local stone and earth metals spread across the valley. Farms grew special crops designed for this soil. Children who had never seen Earth played in parks. "Morning, Governor," said Peter Hoffman as he joined her. The construction engineer had dirt under his fingernails and tired eyes. "The new water system is almost done. Should be working by tomorrow." Olivia smiled. "Good work. Any word from Earth?" "Communications are still spotty. That weird interference started up again last night." Olivia frowned. The colony had been having communication problems for 3 days now. Engineers couldn't find the cause. "Keep trotting," she said. Earth should have sent an update on the Galactic Council meetings by now. Across town, in the Agriculture Dome, Lisa Monroe checked the soil samples from the newest farm fields. "How do they look?" asked her assistant. Lisa smiled. "Perfect. The bacteria we added is working. These fields will grow twice as much food next season." She stood up and stretched her back. 5 years of work, and we're finally getting it right. The assistant looked out the window. "Do you ever miss Earth?" "Sometimes," Lisa admitted, "but we're building something important here, the first human settlement among the stars. My kids will grow up knowing we helped start it all." Unknown to the colonists, 6 Vorax warships hung in space on the far side of the planet. Their advanced cloaking technology hid them from human scanners. Inside the lead ship, High Commander Zeth Kroll watched the colony through powerful cameras. "Such primitive structures," he said to his officers, "and they dare build them on a world marked for Vorax expansion centuries ago." "When do we begin, High Commander?" asked his second-in-command. Zeth Kroll's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Soon. The transmission to the Council is being prepared. The galaxy will watch as we teach these humans their proper place." Back in the colony, Governor Olivia met with her leadership team in the main meeting room. The wall screens showed maps of New Horizon and its growing areas. "The eastern section needs more housing," said the colony planner. "We have 200 new settlers arriving next month." As they talked, little Katie Winters played in the colony's main park. She was 6 years old and had been born on the colony ship during the journey from Earth. To her, New Horizon was the only home she had ever known. "Look what I found," she called to her friends, holding up a strange purple flower. The other children gathered around her. In the hospital, Dr. Frank Diaz delivered a baby, the 500th child born on New Horizon. The parents cried with joy as they held their daughter. "What will you name her?" the doctor asked. "Hope," the mother said, "because that's what this colony means." In his workshop, Peter checked the new water pipes one last time. Something didn't feel right today. The air seemed different somehow. He looked up at the sky through the window. For a second, he thought he saw something flicker there, like a heat wave or a shadow. Then it was gone. He shook his head and went back to work. New Horizon had a busy day ahead. None of the colonists knew it would be their last. On Helios Station, Caroline Maxwell and her team worked desperately to warn Earth about the threat. But the message that finally came from home made their blood run cold. Contact with New Horizon colony lost. Unknown ships detected in system. It was already too late. The main council chamber on Helios Station was packed. Representatives from all 30 species sat in their special seats. Today was an important meeting about trade routes and new territories. Caroline Maxwell and her team sat at the human section. She felt nervous. They still had no clear news from New Horizon colony, just reports of lost contact. Earth had sent ships to check, but they would take days to arrive. "Let us begin," said the council leader from inside its water tank. Large screens around the room lit up, showing the meeting to billions of beings across the galaxy. On Earth, people watched too, proud to see humans finally part of the galactic community. The meeting began with normal business. Species argued about borders and resources. Caroline prepared her notes for her turn to speak about human requests. Suddenly, High Commander Zeth Kroll stood up, all 4 of his arms raised. "Esteemed Council," he said, his voice loud and confident, "the Vorax Empire wishes to address a serious violation of our territorial claims." The council leader looked surprised. "This is not on our agenda, High Commander." "What I have to show cannot wait," Zeth Kroll insisted. "It concerns the protection of properly claimed Vorax expansion zones." Before anyone could object, Zeth Kroll pressed something on his control panel. The large screen in the center of the room changed. Now it showed a view of New Horizon colony from above. Caroline's heart stopped. "No," she whispered. "What you see," Zeth Kroll continued, "is an illegal human settlement on the planet designated as Vorax Expansion Zone 12 to 87. This primitive species has ignored proper galactic law. The screen showed the colony in clear detail, the buildings, the farms, the people moving around like tiny dots. Caroline realized with horror that this was a live broadcast. She jumped to her feet. That's our colony. Those are 50,000 civilians. Vorax ships have no right to be there. Zethkrol ignored her. The Council will now witness how the Vorax Empire handles those who ignore our ancient claims. On the screen, 6 large Vorax warships appeared, their cloaking technology turning off. They moved into position around the colony. The Council erupted in noise. Some species shouted protests. Others sat in shocked silence. "Stop this!" Caroline screamed. "Those are innocent people." Ellen tried to run to the Vorax delegation, but security guards stopped him. Samantha began crying. Nathan stared at the screen, horrified. On New Horizon, alarms finally began to sound. The colony's small defense systems activated, but they were designed for meteors and local dangers, not warships. On the screen, Governor Olivia Daniels appeared, speaking frantically into a communication system. "This is New Horizon Colony calling Earth. Unknown ship's air." Her words cut off as the first Vorax weapon fired. It wasn't a normal weapon. It created a small black hole that swallowed a section of the colony. Buildings, land, and people, gone in seconds. The council chamber fell silent. All eyes were on the screen. More weapons fired. More sections of the colony disappeared. The cameras on the Vorax ships showed everything in perfect detail. Caroline fell to her knees. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. She watched as the colony where 50,000 humans lived was systematically erased from existence. The hospital, gone. The farms, gone. The schools full of children, gone. It took 7 minutes, 7 long minutes as the galaxy watched. When it was over, nothing remained of New Horizon except a scared landscape. Zethkrol turned to face the council. "Let this be a lesson to all who would ignore Vorax territorial claims. We have been merciful to only remove one illegal settlement." Caroline slowly stood up. Tears streamed down her face, but something else was in her eyes now. Cold, pure rage. Silence filled the council chamber. No one moved. No one spoke. The screen still showed the destroyed colony, now just a dark, scared landscape where 50,000 humans had lived minutes before. High Commander Zethkrol sat down, looking pleased. Other Vorax nodded to him in approval. The council leader's tentacles waved nervously in its water tank. This action was not approved by the council. "We should discuss." Discuss. Caroline Maxwell's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Every eye turned to her. She walked slowly to the center of the room. Her face was wet with tears, but her back was straight, her step steady. The cameras that had shown the destruction of New Horizon now focused on her. "Humanity came to this council in peace," she said. Her voice was quiet at first, but grew stronger with each word. "We followed your rules. We respected your customs. We believed in the promise of galactic cooperation." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, stalks, and sensors of each species. "And you just watched as 50,000 innocent humans were murdered." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Some looked down or away. "Ambassador Maxwell," the council leader began, "we did not know this would." 50,000 lives, Caroline shouted, her control finally breaking. Men, women, and children who never harmed anyone. Farmers, doctors, teachers, children who will never grow up. Babies who will never speak their first words. She turned to face the Vorax delegation, "And you broadcast their deaths like entertainment." Zethkrol made his grinding laugh. "Your emotional display is typical of primitive species. The colony was in violation of." "I am not finished," Caroline said. Her voice turned cold and quiet again. Everyone in the chamber fell silent. She stood tall, looking directly into the broadcast cameras. She knew billions across the galaxy were watching. Most importantly, she knew Earth was watching. As the appointed representative of humanity, I have a formal declaration to make." She took a deep breath. From this moment forward, the human race considers itself at war with the Vorax Empire and any who support them. This attack against our colony was an act of genocide that will not go unanswered. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. War declarations in the council were extremely rare. To the council, Caroline continued, "You had one job, to prevent exactly this kind of atrocity. You failed. Your inaction makes you complicit in this crime." The council leader's tentacles turned pale. "Ambassador, please, this is not the proper procedure for—" "There is no proper procedure for responding to genocide," Caroline cut in. "But rest assured, humanity will respond." Zethkrol stood again. "You threaten the Vorax Empire. Your species can barely travel beyond your own star. Your weapons are toys compared to ours. We could erase your homeworld as easily as that colony." Caroline looked at him with eyes like ice. "You could have, but you just showed us exactly what you can do. And now we will be ready." She turned back to the cameras. "To all humans watching, remember what happened today. Remember New Horizon. Remember what they did. And prepare." Then she looked at the council one last time. "You all just witnessed the biggest mistake in Vorax history. They believed us weak because we value peace. They thought us primitive because we show emotion. They saw our cooperation as submission." Her voice dropped to almost a whisper, but everyone heard her final words. They were wrong. With that, Caroline and her team walked out of the council chamber. Behind them, chaos erupted as species argued about what had happened and what it meant. The Lysian representative, Lyra, watched them go with sad silver eyes. She alone seemed to understand what the Vorax had just unleashed. On Earth, as the broadcast ended, silence fell across the planet. Then, as one, humanity began to prepare for war. Earth changed overnight. The broadcast of New Horizons' destruction was seen by billions. The colony's final moments played on screens in homes, offices, and public squares across the planet. In Washington, D.C., military leaders gathered in an underground room. Admiral Victor Ramirez spread maps across a large table. His uniform was neat, but his eyes showed he hadn't slept. "We've had plans for this possibility since first contact," he told the president. "We hoped we'd never need them." General Kelly Martinez nodded. "Project Sentinel can be activated immediately. The ships we've been building in secret can launch within days." The president looked at the faces around the table. "How long have you been preparing for war?" "Since we learned we weren't alone in the galaxy," Admiral Ramirez answered. "Peace was our hope. But hope is not a strategy." Across the world, factories changed their production lines. Car plants began making ship parts. Technology companies focused on weapons systems. Schools and universities became training centers. In Seattle, factory worker Doug Freeman watched as his workplace transformed. Yesterday they made electric cars. Today they were building engine parts for warships. "My cousin's family was on New Horizon," he told his supervisor. "His kids were 5 and 7. I want to do more than just build things." The supervisor handed him a card. "Military recruitment is taking everyone. No experience needed. They'll train you." By the end of the week, Doug was in basic training, learning to be a soldier. At Stanford University, Michelle Patel watched the broadcast with her robotics class. Her professor turned off the screen when the colony disappeared. "Class is canceled," he said, his voice shaking. "But anyone who wants to help, stay. The military needs people who understand advanced robotics." Michelle stayed. So did every other student. On Helios Station, Caroline and her team were now effectively prisoners. The council didn't call them that, but guards for their protection followed them everywhere. In their quarters, Alan received a coded message from Earth. "They want us to stay here," he told Caroline. "Gather information. Report Vorax movements." "We're spies now," Samantha said quietly. "We're at war," Caroline replied. "And we're the only humans who can see what's happening here." Nathan worked day and night on his computer, breaking into council systems, stealing technical data. "The Vorax ships have a weakness," he said one night. "Their gravity weapons take massive energy. There's a 3-second vulnerability after they fire." Caroline sent the information to Earth in code. Meanwhile, Lyra visited them secretly. "Many species disagree with what the Vorax did," she whispered. "But they're afraid. The Vorax have destroyed civilizations before." "Will the Lysians help us?" Caroline asked. Lyra handed her a small device. "Shield technology. More advanced than what the Vorax think you have. We cannot fight with you openly, but this might give your ships a chance." Caroline took the device. "Thank you." Lyra's silver eyes were sad. "The Vorax believe humans will need years to build a response. They think you're still arguing among yourselves about what to do." Caroline smiled for the first time since the broadcast. "That's where they're wrong. Humans fight each other all the time. But when attacked from outside, we unite. Quickly." On Earth, the first ships of the new fleet were already leaving orbit. They carried weapons reverse-engineered from alien technology. Their hulls were painted black with one mark, the outline of New Horizon colony in white. Admiral Ramirez named the first and largest ship the UES Vindication. As it left Earth orbit, he sent a message to all ships. "Remember the 50,000. Remember why we fight." The human fleet moved faster than any alien expected. They were heading for the first target, a major Vorax outpost. The Vorax were about to learn that humanity's primitive status had been greatly exaggerated. 6 months after the destruction of New Horizon, a Vorax outpost orbited a large moon. The outpost was a major supply center with 3 defense stations and 20 ships. Vorax moved about their business, confident in their safety. Commander Dextar looked at the status reports. "Any news from the homeworld about the humans?" "Nothing important," his officer replied. "Their primitive ships are still gathering near their planet. Intelligence says they may attack in another 6 months when they finish building their fleet." Commander Dextar made the grinding sound of Vorax laughter. "They move so slowly. By then, we will have new weapons ready." Suddenly, alarms blared across the station. "Unknown ships approaching." An officer shouted. "Many ships." "Impossible," Dextar said. But the screen showed the truth. 40 black ships appeared from nowhere. They moved in perfect formation. At their center was a ship larger than any the Vorax had ever seen humans build, the UES Vindication. On its bridge, Admiral Ramirez stood calmly, all ships in position. "Remember your training. Remember New Horizon." General Martinez's voice came through the communication system. "The Vorax are scrambling their fighters." They looked surprised. "Good," Ramirez said. "Begin Operation Remembrance." The human ships attacked with weapons the Vorax had never seen before. The first defense station exploded before it could fire. Commander Dextar stared at the screen in shock. How did they build such ships so quickly? How did they get here without us detecting them? The second defense station fired its gravity weapon. A black hole formed in space, but the human ships were ready. They moved away in perfect coordination, their new shields glowing blue. "Impossible," Dextar shouted. "Those are Lysian shields. How do humans get that technology?" One by one, the Vorax ships were disabled or destroyed. The human attacks were precise, targeting weapon systems and engines, but avoiding living quarters where possible. On Helios Station, the council gathered for an emergency meeting. The battle was playing on the main screen. The humans had hacked into the Vorax communication system to broadcast it. Caroline Maxwell stood at the center of the chamber, in the same spot where she had declared war 6 months ago. "The Council is now witnessing the first response to the genocide committed against New Horizon colony," she said calmly. High Commander Zeth Krull, watching from the Vorax homeworld, could not believe what he was seeing. How did primitive humans advance so quickly? Those ships should have taken years to build. On the UES Vindication, Doug Freeman operated a defense station. The former factory worker now protected Earth's flagship. Nearby, Michelle Patel monitored the robot fighters she had helped program. "Outpost defenses neutralize," reported a lieutenant. Admiral Ramirez nodded. "Signal the Vorax station. Offer them surrender." On Helios Station, Caroline continued her address to the Council. "Humanity did not want this war. It was forced upon us. But now that we are fighting, we will not stop until justice is done." She looked directly at the Vorax representatives. "You thought us primitive because we value peace. You thought us weak because we show emotion. You were wrong on both counts." The battle ended in less than an hour. The Vorax outposts surrendered. Not a single human ship was lost. As the Council watched in stunned silence, Caroline played one final message from Admiral Ramirez. "This is just the beginning. For New Horizon, for the 50,000. Later, in her quarters, Caroline looked at a small hologram showing the names of everyone who died at New Horizon. She touched the image gently. "We remember," she whispered. "And now the galaxy will never forget what happens when humanity is pushed too far." Across the stars, other human fleets were already on their way to their targets. The war had just begun.